"We need to talk about opening up our marriage," Ashley said casually over dinner, as if she'd just asked me to pass the salt. I nearly choked on my pasta, watching my wife of 8 years continue eating her meal like she hadn't just dropped a bomb on our relationship. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she continued, tucking her blonde hair behind her ear, a nervous habit I'd grown to recognize. "I love you, James, but I feel like we're missing out on experiences. Life is too short to limit ourselves." I set down my fork, my appetite completely gone. The woman sitting across from me suddenly felt like a stranger. Ashley and I had met in college, married young, and built what I thought was a perfect life together. We had a beautiful home in the suburbs of Boston, successful careers, and until 5 minutes ago, I believed we had a rock-solid marriage. "Are you sleeping with someone else?" I asked directly, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane of emotions brewing inside me. "God, no," Ashley exclaimed, looking offended. "This isn't about that. I just think we could both benefit from exploring connections with other people while maintaining our primary relationship. It's actually very modern and mature." I later discovered that was her first lie of many. Looking back, I should have recognized the signs. The late nights at work, the new gym membership she barely used, the sudden interest in girls' nights with coworkers I'd never met. But love has a way of blinding you to the obvious. "I need time to think about this," I said finally, pushing away from the table. Ashley's face fell slightly, not the reaction she'd been hoping for. I learned later that she'd already set her plans in motion, expecting me to either agree immediately or react with such anger that she could paint me as the unreasonable one. That night, as Ashley slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for signs I might have missed. The next morning, instead of heading to my office at the software company where I worked as a project manager, I called in sick and did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. The PI, a retired cop named Mike, didn't sugarcoat things. "In my experience," he said, leaning back in his creaky office chair, "when a spouse suddenly brings up open marriage, they're usually already involved with someone else. They're just looking for retroactive permission." I nodded, my suspicions confirmed. "I want to know everything," I told him, sliding across a check that would drain a significant portion of my personal savings. Every detail, every meeting, every lie. What Mike uncovered over the next 2 weeks would change everything. Ashley wasn't just having an affair. She was orchestrating an elaborate double life that would make a soap opera writer blush. But what she didn't realize was that her suggestion of an open marriage would ultimately be her undoing. Sometimes, when you open Pandora's box, you forget that someone else might be better at playing the game. Mike's first report landed in my email 3 days after our meeting. As I sat in my car outside our house, my hands trembled while opening the attached photos. There was Ashley, wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, entering an upscale hotel with a tall, dark-haired man. The timestamp showed 2:15 p.m., during what was supposed to be her important client meeting. The man was Marcus Reynolds, a senior partner at her law firm, married, 2 kids, active in his church community, the kind of person you'd never suspect. But the photos didn't lie. Stolen kisses in parking garages, intimate lunches in hidden corners of restaurants, hidden touches during office parties I'd attended myself. The affair had been going on for 6 months. But that wasn't even the worst part. "There's more," Mike said when I met him the next day, his expression grim. "Your wife's been planning this for a while. She's been documenting everything, every conversation with you, every perceived slight or argument. She's building a narrative." He showed me screenshots of text conversations between Ashley and Marcus, discussing their exit strategy. Ashley had been carefully crafting a story of emotional neglect and controlling behavior on my part, laying groundwork to justify her actions when everything eventually came to light. She'd even started seeing a therapist, not to work on our marriage as she'd claimed, but to establish a record of her emotional distress. Meanwhile, at home, Ashley was playing her role perfectly. She'd become increasingly affectionate, perhaps compensating for her guilt or simply maintaining her cover. She'd even backed off the open marriage discussion, telling me she'd been emotional that night and wanted to focus on strengthening our relationship instead. "I love you so much," she'd whisper at night, curled against me in bed. I don't know what I'd do without you. Each word was now a dagger, knowing she'd probably texted Marcus the moment I left for work the next morning. The deception ran deeper than just the affair. Ashley had opened a separate bank account 6 months ago, gradually transferring small amounts from our joint account, or not enough to notice immediately, but it had added up to nearly $50,000. She'd also been laying groundwork at her firm, positioning herself for a transfer to their Chicago office, where Marcus was coincidentally planning to relocate to expand the firm's presence. I maintained my composure through it all, playing the role of unsuspecting husband. Each morning, I kissed her goodbye as she left for work. Each evening, I listened to her fabricated stories about her day. I watched her type messages on her work phone, the secret second phone Mike had discovered she used solely for communicating with Marcus. But while Ashley was playing chess, she didn't realize I was about to change the game entirely. The next stage of my plan would require perfect timing and the kind of calculated risk that would make her proud, if she wasn't about to become its target. Because while Ashley and Marcus plotted their new life together, they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated exactly what I was capable of when betrayed. The pieces were falling into place. Mike had put me in touch with Marcus's wife, Sarah, a pediatric surgeon who'd been just as blindsided as I was. As we compared notes over coffee, both of us maintaining our composure despite our worlds imploding, a plan began to take shape. Sarah's eyes, filled with the same cold fury I felt, met mine across the table. "They want to play games?" she said, her voice steady despite her white-knuckled grip on her coffee cup. "Let's show them how it's really done." Sarah and I spent the next week meticulously crafting our response. Each evening, as I sat across from Ashley at dinner, watching her check her secret phone under the table, I felt a strange sense of calm. The woman I'd loved for 8 years was now a stranger wearing my wife's face, and I was finally seeing her performance for what it was. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told her one evening, carefully maintaining eye contact, "about opening up our marriage." The fork paused halfway to her mouth, her green eyes widening slightly with interest. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we should explore new experiences." The smile that spread across her face was triumphant, though she quickly tried to hide it. "Really? You've changed your mind?" She reached across the table to squeeze my hand, and I forced myself to squeeze back. "I think this could be really good for us, James. We just need to set some ground rules." Oh, the rules she proposed were extensive. Complete honesty, no emotional attachments, always putting our marriage first. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. I nodded along, playing my part perfectly, while she outlined boundaries she'd already shattered months ago. That's when I dropped the first part of our plan. "Actually," I said, trying to sound nervous, "I've already met someone. Her name is Sarah. She's a doctor, and we've been talking for a few weeks. I wanted to be honest with you before anything happened." The flash of jealousy in Ashley's eyes was instant, though she quickly masked it with a smile. That's great," she managed, her voice slightly strained. "Tell me about her." So I did. I described Sarah in detail, her intelligence, her success, her beauty. I watched Ashley's knuckles whiten around her wine glass as I mentioned Sarah's recent separation from her husband. "She's really understanding about our situation," I added. "She thinks it's mature how we're handling this." The next day, right on schedule, Ashley suddenly needed to work late. Mike's surveillance photos showed her meeting Marcus in their usual hotel, staying twice as long as their normal rendezvous. The texts she sent him, which Mike had managed to intercept, were frantic. "He's already seeing someone. Some doctor named Sarah. This wasn't supposed to happen yet." Meanwhile, Sarah was playing her part beautifully. She'd started showing up at my office for lunch, making sure to be seen by people who knew Ashley through various social connections. The gossip mill did its work. Within days, Ashley's own colleagues were whispering about my attractive new doctor friend. But the real masterpiece was yet to come. Sarah had discovered something in Marcus's financial records that would prove invaluable. While Ashley had been squirreling away thousands from our joint account, Marcus had been doing something far more dangerous with his firm's client trust accounts. "It's not enough to just expose the affair," Sarah had said during one of our planning sessions. "They need to lose everything they've been plotting to keep." Her smile was razor-sharp as she spread the documents across my kitchen table, and I know exactly how to make that happen. That night, Ashley initiated sex for the first time in months. As she moved above me in the darkness, I knew she was thinking about marking her territory, about competing with the phantom threat of Sarah. I played my part, but inside, I felt nothing but cold determination. Because tomorrow everything would change. The next morning, I kissed her goodbye as usual. "Have a great day at work, honey," I said, watching her walk to her car. She had no idea that she was about to attend her last day at the law firm, or that by evening, her carefully constructed house of cards would come crashing down around her. Everything changed at exactly 2:17 p.m. that afternoon. I sat in my office, watching the security footage from Ashley's law firm that Mike had managed to access. Right on schedule, 3 FBI agents walked through the front doors, headed straight for the managing partner's office. Within minutes, the entire floor was in chaos. The investigation into Marcus's mishandling of client trust accounts had begun. Sarah's carefully compiled evidence, combined with an anonymous tip from a concerned employee, had triggered a full federal investigation. But that was just the beginning. My phone buzzed with Ashley's text, "Emergency. Need to talk now." I could picture her panic, the realization that her carefully planned future was dissolving before her eyes. Marcus was being escorted out in handcuffs, his face ashen, while FBI agents seized computers and files. The Chicago transfer, their planned escape route, was evaporating along with Marcus's legal career. I met her at a coffee shop near her office, maintaining my clueless husband facade. She was already there, her designer blouse slightly wrinkled, mascara smudged from nervous touching. "The firm's under investigation," she blurted out before I could even sit down. "It's Marcus. He's been arrested. They're saying he stole from client accounts." "That's terrible," I said, reaching for her trembling hands. "Are you okay? Will this affect your job?" She squeezed my hands tightly, and I watched her mind racing, recalculating, trying to salvage her plans. I need to tell you something," she started, her voice breaking slightly. "Marcus and we've been working closely on some cases, and I'm worried they might think I was involved." It was fascinating, watching her try to get ahead of the story, to establish herself as an innocent bystander. She still thought she could control the narrative, even as it spiraled beyond her grasp. What she didn't know was that Sarah had already provided the FBI with evidence of Ashley's knowledge of the financial improprieties, not enough to charge her, but enough to end her legal career. "There's something else," she continued, tears welling up. "I need to confess something. Marcus and we've been—" She paused, probably expecting me to jump in, to rage or cry or cause a scene. Instead, I just waited, my face a mask of concern. The confession that followed was a masterpiece of selective truth. Yes, she'd had an affair, but it was a mistake. Yes, she'd hidden money, but only because she was scared and confused. Each admission was carefully crafted to paint herself as the victim of Marcus's manipulation, a narrative she'd probably been rehearsing for weeks. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her tears now flowing freely. "I never meant to hurt you. I want to fix this. We can go to counseling, work through this together." I let the silence stretch between us, watching her squirm. Finally, I spoke. "Is that everything you need to tell me?" She nodded quickly, relief flooding her face at my calm response. "Yes, that's everything. I promise, no more secrets." That's when I pulled out my phone and opened the folder Mike had prepared. "Are you sure about that, Ashley?" I asked, sliding it across the table. "Because we should probably talk about these." Her face went pale as she scrolled through the photos, the text messages, the bank statements. Every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden transaction, all meticulously documented. But it was the last document that made her hands shake. Divorce papers already filed, citing her affair and financial infidelity. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough," I replied, standing up. "Oh, and Ashley? You should probably call your lawyer. Though I doubt anyone at your firm will be taking your calls right now." The next 48 hours unfolded like a perfectly choreographed dance of destruction. Ashley's world didn't just unravel. It imploded spectacularly, each carefully constructed like collapsing into the next. The woman who had prided herself on controlling every aspect of her life was watching it all slip through her fingers. Sarah and I had timed everything perfectly. The FBI investigation into Marcus triggered an internal audit at the law firm, which uncovered Ashley's involvement in several questionable transactions. While she hadn't directly stolen client funds like Marcus, she had known about the improprieties and helped conceal them. Her attempts to distance herself only made her look more suspicious. The managing partners, desperate to save the firm's reputation, were quick to act. By the end of the week, Ashley was suspended pending investigation. Her dreams of the Chicago transfer evaporated along with her carefully cultivated professional reputation. The same colleagues she'd manipulated into covering for her affair now avoided eye contact in the hallways. But the professional fallout was just the beginning. Sarah had made sure the scandal reached their social circle, timing her own public divorce filing to coincide with Marcus's arrest. The country club crowd Ashley had worked so hard to impress was suddenly abuzz with whispers about the power couple's spectacular fall from grace. The money Ashley had hidden away? She discovered that her secret account had been frozen as part of the investigation into Marcus's financial dealings. Her backup plan, her safety net, was gone. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her own greed had led her to document everything, creating a paper trail that now served as evidence against them both. When she came home that night, mascara streaked down her face, I was packing my bags. "Please," she begged, reaching for me. "We can fix this. I'll do anything." I stepped back from her touch. "You know what's interesting, Ashley? When you suggested opening our marriage, you thought you were so clever. You thought you were giving yourself permission to cheat retroactively. But you know what you really did?" I paused, meeting her desperate gaze. "You gave me permission to spend time with Sarah, to plan, to make sure that when everything fell apart, it would fall apart completely." The realization dawned in her eyes. "Sarah, Marcus's wife. You've been working with her all along. Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" I replied, zipping up my suitcase. "By the way, those divorce papers you were served today?" Sarah recommended the lawyer. "He's excellent at handling cases involving financial fraud and infidelity." Ashley sank to the floor, her designer dress crumpling around her. "What am I supposed to do now?" she whispered. I picked up my bags, pausing at the door to our bedroom, the room where she'd whispered lies of love while planning her escape with another man. "You wanted an open marriage, Ashley. Well, congratulations. Your life is now wide open. All the possibilities you wanted to explore, they're all yours. The only difference is, you'll be exploring them alone." I left her there, surrounded by the wreckage of her own making. As I drove away from our house for the last time, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Dinner? I think we both deserve to celebrate." I smiled, thinking about the woman who had helped me orchestrate this perfect storm of revenge. Sarah understood something Ashley never had. True partnership isn't about control or manipulation. It's about standing together against life's storms, even the ones you create yourself. Ashley had wanted to play games with people's lives. She thought she was the master puppeteer, pulling everyone's strings. But in the end, she'd learned a brutal truth. Sometimes when you open Pandora's box, you find that someone else has already mastered all your tricks, and then some. Thank you for listening the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments and do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next videos.